Welcome back friends, this is Fraser from Art Studio. Let us quickly learn today how to create ripples in water or ripple effects like this in Maya using the wave deformer. So let's get started. So for that we need basically is a circular disc with a lot of subdivisions. Let's start with the cylinder and increase the poly count mainly for the caps. So we'll increase the caps, can make it 10. And the subdivision axis, the more the better. I'll be taking 50 subdivision axis for smoother deformations. Now that we don't need the rest of the faces, we can simply select these faces and delete them. If you want, you can scale it up a little bit, but before that, do the center pivot so you get the scaling properly for visualization purpose. Delete the history, face transformation, and there you go. Coming on to the main part, let's select the mesh, go to the deformers menu, scroll down to nonlinear, and this time we'll be using the wave deformer. Since we had done the sine deformer and shown you how to create waves, this time we'll be using the wave deformer and show you how to create ripples in water or mesh using the wave deformer. Click on that, and as soon as you click on that, you see this deformer handle created. Now this deformer is slightly different from the rest of the deformers. As you can see, it has a linear or a straight line passing through the middle or the diameter of the circle's shape over here, as well as a circular circumferencing the entire mesh. Okay, so this will affect in both ways. This will help us to create the propagation of the ripples from one point moving outwards. If you see in the channel box, with the input node selected, we have the wave deformer attributes over here. Starting with the amplitude, if you just turn on the amplitude and try to change the value, you will see that we get this a wave pattern. If you just go to the wireframe mode and see from the front, basically it's nothing but a wave. Okay, so basically this is the amplitude, the highest and the lowest point, the height of the wave is the amplitude. So greater your amplitude will be that, and if you decrease it, it will be flatter. Let's keep it to 0.05 for now. Coming back to the shaded mode, next we'll try the wavelength. So the wavelength is basically the number of waves you'll have over here. So the lesser the wavelength, you'll have more number of waves or ripples, and if you increase that, that will decrease. So if I keep 1, then you'll have just a single wave. So if you see from the side view again, so this is just a single wave, complete wave. If you see in one side and the other side, single wave. But if you reduce this to 0.01, now you can see the number of waves here. So you're getting 10 complete waves on either sides, positive 10 and negative 10, because we have divided it by 10, since the wavelength is 0.1. For the purpose of this demo, I'll keep it to 0.3, so the visualization is better. Next, coming to the offset, which is the key part while doing any animation in the nonlinear deformers. You can see if I just scroll on my viewport with the offset selected with the middle mouse, depending on which side I move, leftward or rightward, you can see there is a movement of the wave inward or outward from the center. Coming next to the drop-off, if I change this offset back to 0, coming to the drop-off, this basically will show us how gradually the wave can be formed. If we take the drop-off to 1, we'll see that it is strongest in the middle, and then in the sides it's getting gradually faded off. If the drop-off to 0, then there will be no variation. It will be constant wave, the constant amplitude throughout. If we get the drop off to a negative value, let's say -1, in this case the sides are fine, but the center, moving towards the center, it's gradually getting softer and lower. But usually the drop off will reduce from center, the wave will be maximum, and as it moves out, it will be gradually less. So if you want, you can keep a drop-off value of 0.5. This will give you a gradual decrease. Next, the drop-off position. Over here, with the drop-off position 1, we can see amplitude is maximum in the outer side and it is minimum moving inward. If you just scroll with the drop-off position, you can see how the variation is occurring. With the drop-off position to 0, it remains constant as it is. As we gradually increase the drop-off position, you can see how it gradually changes and tweaks. So you can play with the drop-off and the drop-off position depending on what kind of result you need. So drop-off of -1 and drop position of 1 is what we are looking for this example. To give it a natural look for the ripple effect caused on water. Only when the stone or any object falls, it creates a depression and then gradually it fades off as it moves out. Coming to the next attribute, which is the minimum radius and the max radius. You can just play with this. The minimum radius will basically tell you how the wave will progress. So if you increase the minimum radius, it will be flatter in the center and then gradually the wave will be affected. If you want the opposite effect, you can use the max radius. You can see this ring changing its position. So with the max radius, if you decrease the max radius now, as it moves inward, the outer radius of the mesh will become flatter and only affect the inner part. So you can play with the minimum radius and the maximum radius based on what kind of formation or shapes you want to create. Now let's say if I want in the center, instead of this peak, if I want it to go in the opposite direction, that means to create a whole amplitude here and make it -0.05. Effect. So if I make the amplitude negative, then you can see that will reverse my wave pattern and I'll get a depression in the center. So if you want something like this, where after a stone falls, creating the depression and then the wave progresses, you can use this value of the amplitude. You can use the amplitude value to be negative as well. Coming to the animation part now. Let's say if I'm happy with the deformation, I want to animate it. Simply take a note that we have the timeline and the range slider displayed. Since we'll be animating for 5 seconds, we need 120 frames and we'll be setting keys on the offset. So with the first frame selected and the offset selected with 0, we'll just key it. So right click on it and click on key selected. That will key my offset to 0. Coming to the 24th frame, since we are doing 24 FPS, I'll be taking a key on the 24th frame. And based on how fast or how slow you want the animation to take place, let's put a value of 1 first. Let's see how it works. Let's hit the play button. The animation is acting in the reverse direction. That means it's moving inward instead of outward. Let's change this. In the 24th frame, if I keep the offset, instead of 1, let's try this to -1. Okay, now let's hit the play button. So you can see the animation is quite fast, right? Keep a note on the playback speed. Keep it real time. We'll just reduce the value to -0.05. But the thing over here is, since we have the 24th frame, it's stopping after the 24th frame. So how can we fix that? So in order to create a constant looping animation, we go to the graph editor. I have shown you how to get the graph editor from the Windows panel. Animation editor, graph editor, you get the graph editor window. So with the handle selected, you can see the graph curve over here. First thing, we need to make it a linear graph. Instead, it's a curved graph now. That means with this region and either, to make the linear graph, you simply come to and hit on the linear tangents. This will give you a constant motion. Next, to make it looping, even after 24 frames, we'll go to the curves. Under curves, pre-infinity, cycle with offset, post-infinity, cycle with offset. Let's minimize this. Go to the first frame and start playing it. You can see it's giving us a very smooth ripple pattern and it's quite slow and gentle. If you want to make this animation more drastic, and faster, you can increase the value of the offset over here. So let's stop that animation for now. Let's go to the 24th frame and go back to keeping the value as 0.1 instead of 0.01, minus 0.01. Now you can see the speed of the animation has increased, and even the drop off. If you don't want the drop off or drop off position, you can just leave it to 0 and the drop off to 0, and see how it gives you with the default 0 values just with amplitude, wavelength and the offset animation. So that's how your animation will play. Friends, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get my notifications, and if you have any comments or queries, please let me know down below. So friends, I hope you have found this interesting and you have learned something from it and learned how to create this kind of ripple effect. We can do various things, not just creating ripples on water, but we can also create other effects like animating a candle flame as well. So without any simulation or without any kind of effects, you can simply use the deformers to get this animation locked. So friends, thanks for watching. See you in the next tutorial. Till then, take care, bye bye, and keep arting.